Switch the camera. We are live. What's going on? I don't know exactly when it goes, like when she presses the button or a couple seconds. Is there a delay? Where are you going? Oh. Is it recording? Press the button. Oh, no, my sound's on. Oh, we are going live. There's an ad playing. So, welcome to the Ryan Got the Bread podcast, which I hate the name, but I can't change the name because I'm invested in the SEO of it and all that. I hate that. I definitely don't have the bread after this hiatus of being retired. You guys have not seen You guys have not seen any content from me in a long time because COVID made the market crazy, and I didn't want to pretend to be an expert like everybody else was pretending to be an expert when the market has never done anything like what it was doing. But we are back. I have a perspective and I have a new format for the show. We have a real estate expert panel. Let me get my shot on there. Thank you, Kiana. Anyway, we are going to have real estate professionals on here who are going to share their perspectives on different topics. I will still do the interviews with first-time investors and early investors and all that kind of stuff like we were doing before, but I want to be more consistent, and sometimes it's hard to book those people. So today we are talking about a couple things. We're going to talk about real estate inventory, obviously interest rates, which kind of leads into inventory, and we're going to talk about should you do an adjustable rate mortgage, seeing that the interest rates are high. And today I have a panel of two experienced mortgage loan officers. I have Ty, the mortgage guy, Ty Pinnell. And
Yes.
You got 16 years
16
in
years,
the game?
man.
16 years in the
16
game.
years.
Then I got Drew Thompson, who's got 7 years in the game, who I worked at a mortgage company with that shall not be named.
The shop.
Yeah. And my name's Ryan.Fagan. I am a real estate broker. I've also been a real estate mortgage loan officer as well. I worked in property management. What else? Oh, appraisals. I've done like almost every sector of real estate. I used to flip houses until the market went crazy. I also have done burr properties, and I prefer just owning rental properties right now because I'm really boring, but it's allows you to retire.
Just tell the truth, right? You almost retired.
I'm half retired. That's why you guys haven't seen me.
Tell them you're chilling now.
Yeah, I am chilling now, but I want to give back and give content and give my perspective, and so that's what we're trying to do. So let me bring this news article up. We're talking about inventory. Are we talking about inventory or rates? What did we say? Let's do inventory first.
Go to rates. Yeah.
This is very concerning for me. So if you guys didn't know, since 2020 when COVID hit, the market crashed for like a couple weeks, and then it went berserk. And we're up. What's the percentage we're up nationally? I don't know. I should have looked this up, but we're up an insane percentage on the median home price. I think we went from like $250,000 to almost $400,000 for the median home price, which really hurt a lot of people trying to buy the first home. You needed a lot more money. Obviously, if you've ever tried to buy a house right now, there's multiple offers. It was just a frenzy, but I think we're at a pivot point, and this is why I want to talk about inventory. This is from Realtor.com, and this was published in June 30th. Okay. And the headline is June 2022 Monthly Housing Market Trends Report. And basically the headline is the inventory of homes for sale increased again in June, the largest increase in the data's history. The national inventory of active listings increased by 18.7% over the last year, while the total inventory of unsold homes, including pending listings, still declined by 1.4, which is interesting, due to the decline in pending inventory. And so I feel like that's a big red flag that the real estate market is changing. And if you don't know what inventory is, that's basically the homes available for sale. So like in my town right now, if you look, there's I believe about 12 houses for sale. Because today is July 10th. So when I looked today, it was about 12 houses that were for sale. And last year, there was probably like 4 to 6 houses for sale. Obviously, if you know what supply and demand is, if there's more supply and the same demand, then the price should start coming down. Real estate is interesting because it's a little slow. It moves slowly, so we don't see the change right away. So I want to know what you guys think. I think that this is the sign that the market is shifting from a mega ultra crazy seller's market to slightly a buyer's market in the next couple months. I think if you're thinking about buying a house and you're trying to be strategic, I mean, it depends on your situation. Buying is better than renting anyway, so if that's your alternative, it's probably better to still buy.
Make that comment again.
Yeah, but if your
buying is better than renting always. Unless you're in the military and you traveling every couple months.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of scenarios if renting is your alternative, but if you were living at home or renting with like a whole bunch of people, or your rent is super cheap compared to how the rents have gone up. There are special situations, but in general, it's better. Yes. But what I'm saying is, if you want to be really cute and fancy, I think you'll have a better buying opportunity going forward rather than buying now. What do you guys think?
Oh man, it's a tough call.
You can disagree.
Yeah, it's a tough call because, all right, like let's say what you just mentioned. So last year was 4 to 6 properties here versus the 12 now for sale. But last year, what was the average of time frame the property was on the market before they had 30 to 40 buyers come like grab it up? So, you know what I mean? Like now, it's less. It might be less buyers, but I don't know. I don't know if that's an indication that things are just going to turn to a buyer's market, even the slightest bit.
Well, 20% more houses on the market has to mean something. No? What do you think that means then? If, like, that's a big change. Real estate is only supposed to move in increments of like 3%.
Correct. Correct.
And so when I say 18%, that's year over year. So that means June this year compared to June last year.
Yes.
Because real estate's seasonal.
Yes.
But then what would be your explanation?
Well, I mean, it's definitely calming down, but the calm down to me is more of a correction.
It's not a 2008 crash. I agree.
There's a big difference between crash and correction.
There's a bunch of bad content on there and clickbait, and that's why YouTube is dangerous to get information from sometimes. And obviously we're on YouTube, so that's kind of hypocritical. But it gets clicks to say everything's crashing, and everyone remembers 2008, so it's an easy callback. But the reasons for 2008 were much different than what's happening here. I mean, you're just increasing rates, which is slowing it down. It's not like they're giving mortgages to dogs and cats and people with no jobs. So.
But see, the thing is, too, we got to understand, why are they increasing the rates?
Well, because they're trying to stop inflation, but...
That's it. But they're inducing a recession.
Yes, on purpose.
On purpose.
And I think
that's different than what happened.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So I don't know if we're getting too far ahead, but I don't think that fiscal policy, aka the Fed raising rates, is really the cause of the inflation in the first place, because you have supply chain issues.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got the price of gas that has nothing to do. The rates have nothing to do with oil prices.
First of all, let's start here. They printed $7 trillion last year.
Well, that's the argument for that.
They printed $7 trillion. That's like by far the most they ever printed in one time in circulation. Think about that. Like, you know what I mean? So
that has a factor.
That's the biggest factor right there. Now everything else is chasing that. This quantitative tightening and everything else has to do with that. Everything has to do with that. So,
but my suspicion, and the cool thing about these predictions are we'll see if they're true. But I'm sorry, I'm looking at Kiana because I'm watching the camera switching. It's interesting because I don't think raising the rates is going to slow the inflation as much as they think it will. So I think they're using not the best tool. And the consequences of raising rates is that you put the brakes on the market.
That's what they're doing.
In general, that's why you're seeing the stocks go down. And obviously, it makes a house more expensive. If you go from 3 to 6% rate, that the mortgage is significantly more Drew, what are you thinking? Yeah,
but I mean, so that the whole like what you just said there, as a whole, makes sense. But at the end of the day, they still have to do something.
Yeah,
and because they don't know what else to do to fight the inflation. So historically, this is what we do: we bump up the rates, and it staves off the inflation. But they're not. I don't think they're accounting for the people the industries that are inflating on their own. You know, we're still feeling the effects of COVID and everything else, where these companies were on back order.
Right. There's all that delayed
backlog
demand.
And delayed demand, and now they got a little bit more stock. We're still on back order. We're still trying to catch up from COVID, and they got warehouses and inventory that they just
price gouging too.
Yeah, exactly. But they know that they can. They see the money they're getting from it, so they're like, "Why would I dive into and say that I got all this stuff now and start losing this cake now?"
Well, that's my thing. Is once you raise your prices and people are still buying it, then why would you lower your price?
Okay, so stop right there. Let the market
inventory.
Think about that. Let's get into that. Why would you? So housing.
I only
these
lower
prices,
my price if I need to sell and no one's buying. If people keep buying, then I'm just gonna.
That's why the real estate market is going crazy. That's why they can go over asking and do appraisal gaps and everything else, because people are still going to buy it. Right. There's somebody out there. You might put a house out there that's $350. Technically, it might be worth $330, $340 per their comps. Somebody might pay $370 because they really want it. Why? Because they're coming from North Jersey, New York, and they're like, "Yo, I get all that done. You know what? I don't even want to play the bidding war. I'm going to go over asking, get this." Right. That's having an effect on the values.
But you only do that if other people are also trying to buy the house.
They don't know that.
No, you know if there's multiple offers on a property.
I'm just saying, if somebody's coming and they're selling their place and they don't want to take the chance, and they seen their cousin and their friends go through it last year, and they're like, "Oh, you got to go over because we had to go over, and that's the only way we got it." They're like, "You know what? Just give them over asking price."
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that is, again, the realtor that you're working with now, too. Because a lot of these realtors still have it in their mind. Yeah, the market's shifting a little bit, but they are still having in their mind that we've got to fight for these houses.
I'm worried about that because I'm working with a buyer right now, and I have to deprogram that because I'm seeing price reductions all over the place when I'm looking at the listings. And my normal spiel during the COVID market was, you almost got to offer a blank check to win an offer, especially if you're on FHA or something like that. And I'm getting worried. I don't want to give the wrong advice, like, "Oh, you got to come in hard," and the market's softer. You know, so that's definitely a thing. Is that, are the agents going to adapt? So if you are looking to buy a house in the next couple months, be careful. You know, with the agent that you're working with, make sure that you're paying attention to the market and you know, just be aware.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, you touched on this earlier about rent and everything like that. Rent doesn't go down.
Nope.
Rent never goes down, even in the crash.
Values may fluctuate. Rent does not go down. So this increase that we've seen, people paying $3,000-$4,000 for rent, that's what people are still fighting from.
Yep.
Right.
So you said that there was an increase in inventory, but where are those increases at?
Right.
Are you seeing that increase in Philly, or are you seeing that increase in the South and in the Midwest where they got space to build? You know, so there might be inventory across the country that is available, but in these inner cities where people need to move because the rent is too high for them to afford, is there inventory for them? So I mean, it's really going to depend on what region of the country you're in, that you might have to wiggle and move a little and shake a little bit different.
Right. Real estate is local, so like depending on where you are, like a good example is that like second home destinations like South Florida and Nevada during the last crash got like double or triple the decline that some of the other places. And then a lot of like the Midwest, certain towns weren't that bad hit by 2008. So that is another consideration.
But in the reverse, like this up market, those areas in South Florida are jumping up now.
So
now they're like
Sarasota's
supposed to be like the fastest growing city in the country.
Yep.
Sarasota.
Summerlin, Nevada was number 3.
You know what I mean? So like these areas are now, people are like, oh, there used to be second homes and vacation spots. People are like, yo, we might as well live here. Why? Because they can work remote now. COVID changed a lot of this.
Yep. That's why I think a lot of the gains are permanent. That's why there's definitely not going to be a crash because the demand for housing, especially the South, because honestly, who wants to live in New York City when they had all the lockdowns, it's cold? Like, once you get out of that, and you can work on Wall Street or from home, and in Florida, and the house is 20% of the cost of a New York City house. You can park. It's a better lifestyle.
Park in my driveway in the 70-degree weather.
Like, the demand
why am I living here again?
Right. The demand for housing is forever changed, and I think that's my biggest thesis, right, is that if you need a home office, now you need more square footage to have that home office because it sucks to work in your kitchen if you got kids, blah, blah, blah. So the value, like the intrinsic value of homes is higher permanently.
So that goes to what you were saying. Let's go back to inventory. How long is more inventory going up going to be the case? Because after a while, it's going to catch up and the market's going to move in. I just don't see that affecting the values, dropping it. It's a temporary drop down. I see some prices decreasing slightly.
I think we're going to have 10 to 20%.
10 to 20%. Okay, that's fair.
In the next up to 18 months.
That's fair.
10 to 20%.
Drop in value?
And that means you also, if you have an FHA, you have a prayer to actually get a house now. Because that was the thing that killed me. Is like, if you're on VA, you're on FHA, you couldn't buy a house. Like, absolutely. I'm sorry. Like, it was almost impossible.
But hold on. Let's say this, Ryan. They're dropping 10 and 20%. But let's make it clear, 10 to 20% of where they're pricing it. Yeah. First of all, a lot of them are overpriced to begin with. So they're not dropping 10 to 20% in the true value. They're dropping from where they were at. Like, okay, well, let's bring it down a little notch.
Yeah, from the ceiling.
And what I mean?
So kind of, again, with the prediction last year, you know, there were some people that say, hey, we're going to crash. And then there was other people like, December, we're going to level out.
Leveling.
We're going to
stabilize. That's what it's going to do. The market's going to stabilize. But and that correction might be from, okay, so Fannie Mae said last year for 21, the rate of appreciation was 10.8%. Right?
Which is insane, actually.
Exactly. 10.8%. So they're saying their prediction for 2023 is 3.2%, where it's supposed to be. But to us, it's like, oh, it's not going up a lot.
Right.
But that's the that's the correction. Other than that, it's not going to be much.
Yeah, 3% was a normal. 1 to 3%.
And I think that number is going to be off.
That's going to be. It's probably going to be more than that.
Way off. Because especially if we hit recession and rates go back down.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, all right, well, I can buy again because there's a bunch of people that are priced out of the market right now because of interest rates.
So if 3% is way off on the low end, where's it going to be? Because think about it. All right, landlords got screwed during COVID.
Oh, my God.
Landlords in Jersey right now, they're still getting screwed. Courts are 7 to 8 months out for eviction. Think about it.
You couldn't evict anybody for 2 years in
and you still can't. It's still 6 to 8 months.
States.
What you saying? Trump coming back?
I'm saying Phil Murphy would let people just stay in your house and you can't get rid of them and you have to pay everything. I had one like that.
I don't like
tens of thousands of dollars on my property. Can't do nothing with them.
Can't.
But they need to call for the assistance immediately. Then, if they're gonna do that,
and they took forever. Like I
landlords didn't get the assistance first. Like everybody else got money, and then there's the landlords got
and you got hosed. And then to try to get the money from the housing authorities and all that took forever. And then if you didn't cross your T's and dot your I, they would delay it, and it was really hard to get the money. It was really.
So let's see how does that tie into the market now? So now the landlord's like, you know what? We're not going through this no more. Okay, you got a 620 credit score.
I'm not doing it. Yeah, the screening.
You got eviction. You got bankruptcies. You got any kind of collections. Nope.
Private landlords are damn near existent right now.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Damn near existent right now. Everybody, before private land. Oh yeah, no, my man. No, you good. You got pay stuff back.
Yeah, that's it.
Now,
nope.
Nah, if you ain't got a 650, I can't get with you.
Go talk to the property manager. Deal with them, man.
And I was trying to explain this to renters because they're always posting complaining about the rent, and I'm like, yo, if a bad renter gets in, they're there for 18 months.
Easily.
Stealing from you. So
Easily.
It's actually just as easy to buy a house.
No. It's easier.
It probably is.
Yeah. We can still do down to 580 on a tough scenario. Maybe it's a numbers game, 1 out of every 5 or whatever, close or whatever. But 620, 600, easily. Right. You're not getting no rent. You're not going to no place. Apartment complex, anywhere, a house, management for $6. And then they still doing the programs. The first down, the $10,000 down to 620.
Yeah,
right. So you only need $5-6 grand to.
You see what I'm saying?
Get them. If your offers are going to get accepted now, because that was a problem before.
Now it is because
and again, you get your first month, last.
Yeah, that's $5 grand.
That's $5 grand
that's
there
right
already.
There. That's it. Yep.
Yeah. You can get a house, folks,
and you got to have 680 score to rent.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So that moves on to the rates, guys. So interest rates obviously have been going up. This is from Forbes, and this was, I believe, July 6th, so a couple days ago, not too long ago. Today's average rate on a 30-year fixed is 5.63%, down 0.37, so it was a little bit higher the week before. Borrowers may be able to save on interest costs by going with a 15-year mortgage. Ugh, who would do that?
Good luck with getting qualified.
Come on now.
As they have a typically lower rate. This is horrible advice. The average rate on a 15-year fixed mortgage is 4.89. It's hardly worth it because now your payment's like double.
Remember 15 years were like 2.5.
Oh.
It was like
1.99.
Right.
It was like, yo, you know what? You might as well get a 15.
Get that 15.
Now it's like, just make double payments.
Yeah, just pay twice. It almost never makes sense to do that. So if you guys, for the audience, and we kind of already talked about it, but I mean, the Federal Reserve kind of moves interest rates, and then they're loaning that money to the bank, which it cascades down to mortgage rates, right? So what's happening is that they're raising rates to slow down the economy to stop inflation.
Hyperinflation.
Hyper, mega, ultra inflation.
Yes, that's the key. They're trying to calm the hyperinflation down to a normal inflation, and that's the issue.
But what that means is that for the same house, your monthly payment is getting significantly more because it's double from 3 to almost 6% now. And that this is why it's a theme. I think that if you could afford a house now you can't at that same price.
Yeah.
You seen a lot of that, Drew?
There's a ton of people
It's pricing them out.
Because, especially that we're in that 200 to, they were already getting priced out because of the value inflation. But now that the rates have caught up, those people that were in that $200,000 range that they could purchase in, and they were already having problems finding a house, now they can't purchase at $200,000. So they've got to purchase at $125,000.
Where you gonna find that at right now?
Where are you finding that?
So that's the biggest reason why I think right now, July 2022, is the very worst time to buy a house, because you still have the price inflation. It's not all inflation. I think there's legitimate increase in value, but you're paying the very top price, and now you're paying double to borrow the money. It's a double whammy. And I don't think both of those things maintain. One of those got to give. The rate got to go back down, or the price got to go down a little at some point.
You know what's interesting?
You think the rate's
going to go down. You know what's interesting?
So you think, because the Fed has been very aggressive talking about they're going to raise rates for the whole year.
But think about it.
But I agree. I agree with you. I don't think this is sustainable with the rates.
It's not. It can't be. Look, last month when the Fed raised it, 3/4 of a point, right? They raised it 3/4 of a point. Interestingly, it was counterintuitive. When they raised it, everybody's like, the rates jumped. The rates actually started going down slightly since then.
Yeah, they have been, the mortgage rates.
Why is that? Because the investors now know, okay, we know where it's at now. The confusion was, the speculation was, we don't know where it's going to go. Let's jump the rates up. As an institutional investor, they don't know where it's going to go. They're going to jump the rates up just to keep up with the market. Now they're like, okay, we know what they're doing. Let's raise it down, drop it down a little bit. It's going to happen again. They're going to raise it up again, and the rates are going to go down, not a lot, but they're still not going to keep increasing. Yeah. The values, they're not going to go down.
So what you're saying, because this is getting a high level, so I want to dumb it down a little bit, is that we're not dumb it down, but like
I got you.
Yeah. So you think that they're going to reverse on raising rates? So do you think we're at say 6% roughly? At the end of the year, you think it's coming down?
Listen, let me say this.
Even though you think even if the Fed increases rates, you think that the lenders
that's it right there, Ryan. Listen, it's a difference because the Fed rate isn't interest rate.
Right, yes.
It's important to understand that, right?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's speculative. Prior to them raising it, it was the rates jumping up was all speculative. That's just like stocks. Look at stocks.
Before.
You see what I'm saying?
The
stocks
things happen before
everything jumps up because it's speculative. Then when the fear and the truth comes out, everybody's like, then everything drops.
Right.
But
remember how they was pump faking before?
Yes.
And
yes.
Oh, they're going to raise rates. Oh, they didn't do it. Oh, they're going to raise rates.
Yes.
And the mortgage rates would anticipate that before it happens.
Yes.
So that's that. So for the people listening, that is how like almost everything works in finance, is that they're trying to get ahead of the news. So like if it's thought that stocks is a good example, right? If they think Amazon's going to beat what is estimated, it will go up before they release what happened.
And when Ryan's saying he's talking about the institutional
money,
investors. They're the ones who control where the rates are going to be. The banks and everybody else just follow suit.
Right. Yep. So the things happen before they happen, but if they don't turn out to happen the way that is anticipated, then the counter happens. So
correct.
What you're saying.
So even though that, again, the Fed is going to be raising their rates, like you said, it had a counter effect because they had more certainty of what the Fed was going to do.
Right, that makes
so
sense.
they rose rates. Our mortgage market, we went up for maybe what was it, like 4 or 5 days.
Yes,
it
absolutely.
went up, and then we saw a trickle down.
Trickle down.
And that's what happened. That's what it's saying in the article, is that it's down 0.37%. From the prior
just want to go down more.
So the first week of July, it was higher, and it's been going down, even though the Fed is still saying they're going to continue to raise rates.
So here's the other factor, right? Again, the fight hyperinflation, that's what they're doing. So now when the third quarter comes out, mortgage applications are down, what's going to happen again to the rates?
They're going to have to drop it. Because
it's not the supply, the demand, you know what I mean? So now the rates are going to, again, and it's historically every the winter time.
Right,
the rates go down.
People buy less houses
because it's not as much activity. The holidays, everything else going on. So you look in the first quarter 23. I bet you the rates are going to be down. It's inevitable.
I think at least by either first quarter 23 or second quarter.
Yeah. It might translate to the second. But first quarter, we're going to see some stuff happen. Like it's going because people are not going to. This is not going to the same type of mortgage applications numbers wise. Going in the end of the year, it's probably not going to happen the same.
Yeah,
we're going into the recession is going to kick in.
Right,
we're in a recession now, but it's not really showing the full signs of a full blown recession until holiday time comes.
Yeah. Well,
or right after.
July was the tell month.
Yeah,
and they're waiting for that to finish out before they begin.
Yeah,
a lot of these economists were kind of hanging on July to be there. All right, what's going to happen for the next 6?
Right.
Like you said, we've seen that trickle down on mortgage rates. Now that trickle down may again continue to go, but a lot of them are saying, it could get worse before the end of the year, and then it'll get better.
Yep.
So we could see. I saw for the first time on my sheet, with a non-QM loan, a 7%.
Right? Ain't that crazy?
Yeah,
a 7%.
When's the last time we saw that? Think about that.
Yeah.
It's been over 10 years.
Yeah.
Probably 10 years.
And the funny thing, though, is that historically is not that high.
It's not.
So I try to put people in that perspective. Like, I know people were getting 3s, and if you pay 7, but I mean, again, if you don't have a better alternative for housing, it's still probably better to buy at the 7.
But it's hard, Ryan. You know why? It's hard. just January was 2.75. Right. So when people compare that, like, yo, I'm just going to wait until it goes back down.
It might never happen again.
But again, they could shoot themselves in the foot again because I'm waiting for it to go back down, but the home values could still, because we still got demand.
Inflation is still a thing.
Yeah.
So those rates are not going to be the same. The gas prices are not going to be what they were in the 90s, the early 2000s. So, food, material, everything.
Right. So guys, if you're thinking about buying a home, don't try to be too cute about it, because you could screw yourself by waiting. Like, I will say, it's weird. This is like hypocritical. At the same time, I think this might be the worst time. But even if you bought in the worst time, so think about it. If you bought a house in 2007, right before the housing market crashed, if you held on to your property, you're up like 50%.
At least.
So as a homeowner or even an investor, if you buy at the wrong time, as long as your time horizon is long, you'll be okay. Now, you could have made more if you were buying cheaper, but not everyone's that sophisticated, or their life, maybe you need to get a place. Maybe, if you got to get a place, don't kick yourself, even if now's not ideal. If you can wait, just know you're playing that game. You know what I mean? Hopefully that's clear. Like, I hope I'm making sense.
No, you
because I'm giving both sides of the argument.
You are.
But this whole YouTube thing, usually people just want to do this or do that direct without, like,
look at every angle.
Everything's conditional. Like,
listen, the other part of this is the rents is so high now.
It's ridiculous.
How do you tell someone, oh, yo, this is the worst time to buy? Even though it is, from our perspective,
you're paying $3,000.
It's the worst time to rent too.
It really is.
And that's the conversation I've been having with my bars. I'm like, listen, renting sucks right now. Unless you are getting a rent somewhere, or you've been renting somewhere and you're spending $1,000 a month.
Right.
Keep it.
Or you're living at home.
That's a unicorn.
But again, you can still play the market right now. Because you don't have to shut yourself out from buying. Get your pre-approval. Play the market.
Be ready to go.
Be ready.
Like you said, we're at that turning part in the market, in the market where sellers might play a little bit more ball. You might come across a foreclosure property that you can rehab yourself. You might come across a couple more rehabs that are in the market or that aren't move-in ready that you can make your own in 6 months when you're ready to move when your lease is up.
Right.
Let's talk about that going forward, though. Let's talk about that, though, because we haven't seen the foreclosures hit yet, because they've been taking so much time because of COVID. Now they're taking a couple years. When they start dropping a little bit, that might have some kind of impact on inventory.
I have a controversial opinion about this foreclosure thing, because
I want to know.
I've been seeing so much content about foreclosures and in the news, and they say there's this foreclosure wave coming. I don't believe it at all. Because first of all, you had COVID forbearance for your mortgage, so you didn't have to pay for 18 months. So if you didn't pay your mortgage for 18 months, you should have a couple dollars to be able to pay.
No, they don't. They've been spending. Spending habits have went up triple since COVID. There's no savings. Look at the national average savings right now. When you do,
but that's not property owners.
When you talking about, hey, people, what are you saving? People make $100,000 a year. They barely got $5,000-$10,000 saved. It's not.
But they credit cards, Max.
You see what I'm saying?
There was a report that came out in March that right after all that COVID money stopped and dropped off, the average balance on credit cards increased by 82%.
At least,
Oh, that's a good point.
So you think like the savings aren't the same.
We'll see.
People are spending.
But Ty, you're making an argument for things to crash if you get flooded with a whole bunch of foreclosures.
What I'm saying is that somebody's always going to be available to buy. I'm saying that the banks are smart. There's going to be foreclosures. There's going to be opportunities for the opportunists to come get them, but they're not going to flood the whole market with foreclosures. There was properties that sat for 5, 7, 8 years before they actually hit that list.
This is true.
And if you knew an asset manager, you can go in and try to get it out early, but they weren't listing these properties.
No.
They were just sitting in the neighborhood boarded up.
Sat on them. I thought some of that's incompetence too. They just didn't care.
On top of, we've got people that are waiting for a crash.
Yes.
We've got people that are waiting because they're priced out of the market. We got people that are waiting because rates are high.
Yeah, there's
so even if foreclosures come back into the market next year, it's going to be
they're going to be gone.
That's why I'm saying a 10 to 20%.
And people are going to overpay for them.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying there's a 10 to 20% price decline that I think, because there's definitely a floor where then people start buying again.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think the floor is pretty high. Like, if it comes down, people are just going to go back in, because there's still a lot of buyers who never were able to buy a house when the market was crazy, and they're still waiting to buy a house. I know a ton of people like that. Going forward, third topic here, adjustable rate mortgages. So we kind of talked about it a little bit off camera, because secretly I've been sitting around like, my thesis here is that I don't think the rates can sustain 6-7% for the reasons kind of that we've talked about. And I think even the Fed's going to reverse by the end of the year, maybe, because the economy's doing they're making a recession, and then politics get involved. But anyway, I'm thinking the rates, you might not see 2.875, but you might see the 4s and 3s come back, right? So, do you do an
What do you think, Drew? I don't think you're going to see the 4s and 3s for
not until at least, like I said, in second quarter next year.
You think by then 4s?
We should at least be in the 4s,
January.
or be able to buy down to a 4.
Q1.
Okay, that is.
Quarter.
They buy down to a 4.
Q1.
Yeah.
So if you do an ARM, an adjustable rate mortgage, you're going to get a lower initial rate, and then there's a 5-year and a 7. Is there?
But are the ARMs attractive right now? Like the 5-1 ARM, the library ARM, they used to be attractive at some point.
What's the 5-1 ARM that you're seeing?
I'm not even pricing them because nobody wants to touch those because they're just not sure.
I think they get a bad rap, and they're somewhat are blamed for the last crash, although the ARM isn't why. Like, it's because people didn't have jobs when they gave them the ARM.
That and miseducation.
The combination.
And miseducation and, a whole bunch of issues with that.
Yeah.
But if you do the ARM right, you get a lower rate than the normal market rate. Yeah. And if rates go down, you're really cooking, because now your rate, if it works out to your favor, an ARM can go down.
That's in a perfect world, though, right? Like right now, the institutional investors, I don't think the ARM is where they want it to be. So the starting rate may be so high, it's like it's not even worth going that route. Okay. So at some point before, the gap between the starting rate for the first 3 or 5 years of a LIBOR ARM was so attractive that they said, okay, the rates are 6%. The starting for the first 5 years on this is 2.5%, 3%. It's like, all right, I might as well get this, especially if you're not going to stay in this house or this loan for 5 to 7 years. It's like, cool. But now it's like right there. It's like, yo, what's the point of me getting that? And we're not sure where it's going to go. So, you know what I mean?
So my take on them is they could work.
Yeah.
And depending on the situation, if you're in a situation where you're buying $450,000, $500,000 and up, and you have the money to do so, it could make a $200-$300 difference in your payment. To get one of those ARMs. But like you said, not all of them are attractive. Nope. So I'm sure when you go to price and everything like that, you see the different options and everything that you have. So not all ARMs are created equally. One company may offer an ARM, it might cost you, $7,000 to get a 4.99 right now. You might have to put 10% down because a lot of these investors want to hedge their investment.
Yes.
You got to put 10% down to get a 4.125, but you still spending $3,000 for the rate. So does it make sense? Right. Yeah, you can it'll make sense because again, on a 5-1 ARM. So like you were saying before, a 5-1 ARM is the rate's gonna stay the same for that 5 years, and then after that year it can change 1%. Each year after that, up to a certain cap amount.
But Drew, think about the average buyer. You tell them that, they're going to be like, man, listen.
Well, that's what I said.
Just give me a 30-year fix.
Well, but this information is for people that are really care and want to know. Okay. You know what I'm saying? If you're watching this podcast, you're invested in trying to, maybe get an edge.
Yeah. I'm not offering this to the average buyer. I'm
right. No, not the
person that,
that's what crashed in 07. Everybody was doing it. Yeah. Everybody got ARMs. Everybody was like, I only got to pay $1,500 and your mortgage payment's really $2,500.
Those had reverse amortization and all that, where like your loan actually went
negative
up.
AMs.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So I had a guy, again, military guy, I'm only going to be stationed here for the next 4 years, da-da-da-da. All right, might make sense for you.
Right.
Or, I got a family, the average home, they stay in that family for that home for 7 years.
Yep.
So if you can get a 7-1 arm and get locked into that interest rate for that 4.125 for the next 7 years, you got a lot of decision-making time. And historically, rates don't stay where they're at right now for 7 years. We've never seen a 7-year stint for that whole time period. So it could make sense for you as long as you play it smart and you pay attention to the interest rate market.
Yes.
So at year 2, every year you should be checking to see where the rates are.
And what Drew is saying is the type of conversations that you need to have with your loan officers. And then if they're not asking you all these questions and finding out what your goals are and not really giving you the customized service, because every situation is different and there's a lot of different tools, but people are just going to put you in a loan if it's human nature. Like, okay, I do a 30-year fix. That's all I do. You have FHA, boom, boom, boom. But for the audience, I'm just saying basically, these are the type of conversations that you want to try to have, and you want to kind of know what's going on. But every situation is different.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
And even with these arms, it's like you got to have stability.
You got to know what you're doing.
You don't want to get in the arm if you're in a position where your credit score currently isn't high.
Yeah, you don't want
and you're not in a stable position to be able to refinance.
Exactly.
Because if 5 years come and inflation's so crazy that your rate gets out of that fixed period, now it starts adjusting way too high, and you're not in a position to refinance. Right. That's what happened in 08. You know what I mean? So you got to be a selective individual, and it does make sense if it is. But I just,
it's got to fit that individual. If again, and that's like Ryan just said, that's a conversation that me and Ty have to have with our clients. It's like, hey, like this might make sense for you, but you got to stay up on this. If you're not going to pay attention to your rate, if you're not going to pay attention to your situation, you think your job's unstable, you think your situation might be different in 4 years, this might not be for you because you got to be able to refinance out of this in a little bit. Because you are getting this lower rate.
That's what we do on the RGB podcast. We have an actual conversation. We're not just clickbaiting. And, this is good
talk.
or this bad. There's nothing in finance that's just good or bad.
Nah, it's not.
There's a lot of gray area there.
There's a lot of gray area. Everything isn't for everybody. And there are certain situations that may sound good that people read on the internet, but it might not be for you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good, guys.
Hey, man.
What are your final thoughts?
Well, I would just say pay attention to the market in the next 6 months. It's going to be a lot of changes, I think.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a lot of changes happening, and the supply, the demand.
Are you buying properties?
I'm waiting.
You're waiting.
Exactly. I'm waiting. From an investor perspective, it's the worst time. There's newbie investors out there that are overpaying just because they got money, they don't know what to do with it, and the longer you keep money, you're losing it.
That's the pressure now is with the inflation. You have to do something.
You got to do something with it, because if you just got to sit in the bank, you're going to lose money. It's a fact. So, but they're overpaying. That's the problem. Your money's made when you buy. If you overpay,
that's why I haven't bought anything in 2 years.
Okay, so the smart investor is waiting. So
ridiculous.
I'm watching some of the stocks and crypto be in the red, and I'm like, all right, let me just.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm just stacking money. I'm like,
so it's like
Ethereum goes $600.
Oh yeah, it's going to.
Why would I even do all this logistics for the real estate if I can buy Ethereum real cheap?
Right,
I might just do that.
Right.
And it's going to shoot back off again.
At some point,
at least
even if it's a year or two.
The big legitimate ones for me, I would only touch Bitcoin or Ethereum. I wouldn't touch any of the other stuff.
I'm rolling the dice, baby.
Yeah,
let me get some of that Shibu.
Listen, those small, the small Doge coins. And
I don't support these comments.
Listen, Ryan, look. Some of these altcoins.
No,
some of them I'm telling you, they made people millionaires, and I'm like, all right, if I got an extra 500 or 1,000, right now when everything's so low, I don't know, man.
These are Ty's thoughts.
That's my thoughts. That's not Ryan.
His own
this is
opinions.
Not Ryan got the bread. This is me gambling in the market. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is me taking a shot. But I wouldn't suggest it. Please don't take my advice financially on this. But this is just to talk amongst us. But I mean, I don't know. I think things are going to drop down a little bit more too. I think in the winter,
think it's just
the
beginning.
stocks.
This is just the
we're
start
going to be in the red. We're going. I mean, deep down, like it's going to get bad, but it's also going to be an opportunity for the opportunity.
Do you like stocks and crypto more than real estate?
Ooh,
now?
That's a good question.
Because I feel like that's the only thing I would dabble in right now. I'm still waiting on the real estate because I think real estate lags.
I don't know. It's kind of like a catch-22 because I don't think stocks and crypto are at the bottom.
Oh, they're not at the bottom, but they'll hit the bottom before real estate hits.
But real estate is still too high
because it's lagging. That's what I'm saying. It's lagging behind.
It's a tough call. I don't know.
My thing with real estate though is how long are you going to have to wait before you see enough of a correction that you would buy?
This is the problem with investing is that you never know the bottom.
Never know.
Yeah. So that don't be too cute because you're gonna play yourself.
Well, you gotta have a pre, designated number that you're looking at. Like for me, like if I buy something as a rental property, I'm like, okay, after all expenses, if I can make this, it makes sense to me. It should
at least make $200 to $400
at the very least.
Unit.
At the very least per unit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right now, because the rents are up. So if you get a price,
the price is up too. But the rent's probably up more than what you would end up paying for it.
See what I mean? That's the point right there. So the rents are further up more. So it's like, all right, I'll buy because the value is going to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you ever got in a position where you wanted to sell or whatever, you're going to make your money from the equity.
Yeah, don't take risks. Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't.
There's not the time to take risks.
There's a lot. If you're just starting out and all that stuff, it's so attractive to go for home runs, but like chill. Like
yeah. On the investor side of things, you gotta.
Because if you invest without taking any severe losses for 10, 20 years, you'll be in a great situation.
Absolutely.
But if you're playing around taking big losses and then big wins, it's a good chance that you end up down or in the same place. Even if you just because. Again, like a index fund. If you just invest in index fund, you'll be good.
Safe bet.
So like, chill. Because everybody's on. Like, I guess because we've seen the GameStop, we've seen AMC, crypto millionaires, all these reels. They're on Lambos. They're doing this. They're the smartest person ever. They're rich. They're in Tulum. They're over here. They're doing that. It's so much pressure for people getting into.
It's hard to chill when you got money and everything in the red.
Yeah, right.
It's hard to chill.
I can't tell you how many customers I've talked to in the last couple months. Yeah, man, I'm trying to, I'm trying to pull my money out of my 401k because I done lost 30 grand in the last 2 days.
See what I mean?
Right.
Like,
and that's something to fight with because I'm like, look, you only lose when you sell
it. Yeah.
So don't sell. If you want to buy a little bit more, watch down, cool. But don't take that loss. Let it get. You know what I mean? But then again, it's hard to give advice on that because everybody's situation is different, and we don't know where it's going to go. To be honest,
or what
they're
invested in.
Exactly. That makes a difference. So I don't know, man. It's a tough call right now. I don't think anybody has all the answers. I don't care what kind of professional they are or whatever.
No one can predict.
We never experienced this before. We're in uncharted territory.
Yeah. That's why you can't take random, unsolicited, generic advice.
Oh no,
you got to talk to people about and make because your situation's different. You have different goals.
Yep.
And I just get worried because the internet is just putting pressure on people that are just getting started and they're impressionable and they think this is the way to go and I think it's really dangerous.
Yeah. It's been happening.
What do you think, Drew? What's your final thoughts? What do you think the future is? How do you what's on the top of your mind? What's some themes that we might be talking about in the future?
So if you're a home buyer, if you're looking to buy, now, be cautious. There is nothing wrong with getting pre-approved now. There's nothing wrong with exploring your options now, because there's no pressure for you in the market, because you don't even know what you're qualified for right now. So when you get in there, get a knowledgeable loan officer. Make sure you are protecting yourself in that investment when you're looking to buy in a neighborhood. See what the average sales are out there. Make sure you put all of the work in when you're buying a property right now, because like we just talked about, it's been a seller's market. There's a slight turnover right now. Houses are sitting a little bit longer, and it could be, again, a turn in the market. It could be people that need to sell their homes because they are going into foreclosure and they got to get rid of it regardless. So there's no telling why that house is sitting the way it is. So you just got to do your research. For the investors that are out there, kind of like what you guys just said, you got to, kind of hedge your bets a little bit and be cautious, because you can't go out here and take these large losses and bet on
if you
these
buy
properties.
something and then the market goes down and you paid a high price, you're going to lose.
I mean, but I think as a homeowner, like you're talking about,
it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, because they're longer term, so
the
it might go down
value
slightly.
of my house doesn't matter, because what am I?
Yeah, I mean, you're not touching it. Like,
That's why that was my point about 2008 or 2007. If you bought a house, I mean, the house lost half its value, but then
if you kept it,
if I was going to stay there for 10 years, I mean,
you only lose when you sell.
Yeah, you only lose when you sell.
That's the advice I'm giving. I'm just like, if you're in this for the long haul, if this is your forever home,
right,
and you believe this is your forever home, I'm not telling you to break the bank on it. I said, but go for it.
Go for it. You're right.
I agree.
And you know what I say too, for the people that are in that situation that are like, oh, the rates are too high. Listen, you can always refinance.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can just
There's going to be a
Yes.
refi boom in the next year or two.
if the
inevitable.
rate goes down.
It's going to go down. They can't keep it this high.
I agree, but
You
I
know
don't
what
want to say it's inevitable.
So when it go, but the acquisition of the property is the main thing right now. It's the main focus, because
it's
these
better to own
values,
the asset than not to own it, even if you overpay at some degree,
and these
Especially
values aren't going anywhere.
Real estate is pretty safe to own.
It's safe. It's the safest bet right now to put your money in. Because stocks and crypto ain't doing anything else. But if you're buying a house right now, it's the safest bet to put your money on.
And you can always rent it. That was my other thing.
can
It's like the
always rent
rents are high. So I think the theme today, you got to be careful about predictions. But obviously, if you're watching this, you kind of care about what's going to happen. And it's only a hunch, honestly. And you can look at the data and have an idea. But I think at the end of the day, if you're not a real estate person per se, you got to make sure you have good people around you. And they don't have to be brainiac loan officers or agents. I really feel like they just need to put the effort in. I've worked with loan officers when I was younger buying properties, and they don't have any of these conversations. They just put you in whatever the cookie cutter thing is. I've worked at call centers. They're just going to force a certain loan product down your throat. Same thing with real estate agents. You need to be with somebody who cares about these topics and you don't need to be the expert if you have experts that actually are looking out for you. So if your real estate agent is still in the mindset that you got to offer crazy on properties when you don't have to, that's where, you're kind of missing out. And you people don't know what they don't know, so
Absolutely.
you won't even know that you're maybe overpaying because of what advice you're getting. So you don't have to know all the things. Nobody knows all the things. No one knows what's going to happen in the future. But make sure you have good people who are putting effort into talking to you about these topics. And that's a wrap. RGB Podcast. Ty Pinnell, Ty the Mortgage Guy, Andrew Thompson, Mortgage Loan Officer.
Appreciate you.
And that's all we got. Thanks, guys. Hit the red button.
Push the
Woo! We
That
did
was
it.
nice. We went in.
That was
Yeah.
That was 52 minutes.